Eddie Howe's Magpies are one of the most tactically interesting teams in the Premier League, and we're here to break down the methods behind the madness that is Newcastle United. And to understand what Eddie Howe's side are looking to do, we must first analyse them in possession. Newcastle aren't a possession-based team. In fact, since Howe's arrival, they've averaged just below 50% possession per game, but this doesn't make them any less of an attacking outfit. If anything, they're actually one of the best attacking teams in the league because of this. This season, they've scored 27 goals, which ranks them second only behind Manchester City. They've accumulated 22.9 expected goals, which ranks them second behind only Liverpool, whilst they have the highest shots to shots on target ratio in the league with 40%, and therefore because of this they have the highest shot to goal conversion rate with a huge 18%. So how are Newcastle creating such high quality chances? Well, there are two key components, and the first one is Kieran Trippier's involvement. So far this season he has registered 6 assists in his first 11 games, the second highest in the Premier League, and he tops the charts for not only expected assists, but key passes too, which is an incredible feat for a fullback. And he's been nothing short of a revelation at St James's Park. But how is Eddie Howe getting the best out of it? On the ball, Newcastle look to push Kieran Trippier on into almost a right winger-like position to get him closer to the box, with Dan Burn shifting inside from left back to become a left centre-half in possession, with one of the 3 midfielders in the 4-3-3 pushing on into the last line, and this therefore creates the 3-2-5 in possession shape that we've become so familiar with seeing in these top teams. And Newcastle are a direct team. Even when they get into their settled in possession structure, they're still looking to lump balls directly from the centre halves into the channels, as they look to regain the ball higher up the pitch and turn the turnovers into chances. This structure has its weaknesses though. With their main creative outlet being a fullback, there's a huge emphasis on him pushing forward in a lot of attacking moments. But at St James's Park against Borussia Dortmund, we have seen that the distances were too big for Kieran Trippier to cover at times, and it often left a lot of space on the flanks for Borussia Dortmund to counter-attack right through. And this is one of the main reasons why inverted fullbacks are so commonly used today, to reduce the amount of running a fullback must do when going through on and off the ball sequences. However, Newcastle do have a second chance creation tool, and it is their high press. From the opposition's goal kicks, we can often see a narrow 4-3-3, with the wingers and midfielders coming very narrow to clog the central spaces of the pitch, often trying to force the ball through the fullbacks and down the sides. And they use their 2 advanced midfielders very aggressively to man-mark the opposition's midfield players. The ball-sided central midfielder will step out from the centre of the pitch to go and close down the fullback as they look to force a turnover in the wider areas, which is what Sandro Tonali does here. In any team that presses as high as Newcastle does though, there's bound to be a lot of problems out of possession. Because the midfielders are instructed to jump out of the centre of the pitch to cover the fullbacks of the opposition when they're free and ready to receive the ball, this can often make Newcastle's shape very aggressive on one side of the pitch, and usually they're able to avoid this weakness by sheer aggressiveness in their press. But PSG managed to pick this shape apart and create their biggest chance of the night within 4 minutes using this exact routine. We can see how Newcastle's midfielder has been dragged over to the right side, and the narrow front 3 have left the left back open as the spare man. Sean Longstaff, who's the outside midfielder, takes the initiative to jump up onto the fullback, leaving a lot of space in behind him. PSG play a few slick passes in behind him and the attack at speed right through the heart of that Newcastle midfield. But these are the risks that you have to take when pressing, because effectively this press won Newcastle the game. However, when the first line of pressure is broken, Newcastle aren't afraid to drop back into a 4-5-1, and they can often condense the lines together and clog the spaces, and they only really look to step up again once the opposition forces the ball backwards, as Newcastle will look to step up and squeeze the pitch to force higher turnovers. Although they have spent a lot of money, they have been riddled with unavailabilities in recent months, missing key players like Alexander Isak, Harvey Barnes, Sandro Tonali, and even Dan Burn. But in this time, they've still managed to beat the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, PSG, and Arsenal. So even though the league table suggests they're not doing as well as last year, with the hand that they've been dealt, especially in European competition, they are doing a really good job so far this season. So do you think Eddie Howe could be the manager to lead Newcastle United to their first ever Premier League title? Or do you think with playstyle changes, there will also have to be a change in the dugout too, to close that gap?